All right.
All right, guys, we're back from our short little break here for our next session, and I will tell you, I am excited about this next session. I know we've gotten so many questions, and when people started filling out the survey, the attendee survey, people are always talking about raising capital. Not confident. I'm not sure what to do, and we know that's been a big factor. Obviously, questions with previous speakers throughout the weekend, but. And I'm glad we actually made a little bit of a pivot. Bryan, our next speaker, Bryan Ellis, a friend of mine, Capital Solutions, an expert in the self-directed space. You heard his lovely better, I don't want to say better half, well, maybe sometimes better. They're always better half. Let's just face it like that, right, Bryan?
Let's just face it.
Carol last night, and then Bryan was listening and peeking in and said, hey, let me do a pivot. I think you get a little bit more on point for some of the questions. And I was like, yes, let's do it. So we are excited to have I would say that one of the foremost experts on self-directed IRA and raising capital in the country for real estate investors. This guy's been an active investor for years, and we met through marketing and attending class and just getting to know each other. And like I said, I don't think there's a better guy to have it come on here. Even some of our previous speakers from yesterday, Dan Krasinski with the Rocket Dollar, was excited when he saw that you guys were both on here. So
that's awesome.
I'm going to shut up and let you take it away, Bryan, and I'll jump off camera here, but I'll be listening and moderating and go from there. How's that sound?
Perfect. So, are we all set? Do I need to do anything to
you just need to share your screen. If you'll click on it and pull up your PowerPoint, and then share it from there.
Yeah, I'm gonna just make my video full screen if you can, because or if there's a way to do that, because I've got everything set up in this screen.
Well, I just see your video right now full screen. Do you have a PowerPoint presentation or not?
Let's do it. All right. Good afternoon. What's that, Scott? I'm sorry.
Do you have a PowerPoint presentation or no?
Yep, it's going to come up right beside me.
Okay, all right, we'll see that. Yeah.
I do cooler stuff, man.
Good stuff.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So let's just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off, shall we? If you're all about doing one-off, no money down deals, what I've got for you is not going to help you. And if you're content to duke it out with penniless people who have no choice but to rely on nothing but creativity in their deals because they have no money, then this presentation is not going to help you either. If that's kind of what you want to do, if you want to be in that space where you're all about no money down, creative only deals, this ain't for you. But if you know intuitively and maybe even experientially that there's huge opportunity available right now, and that you've got to have money to access those opportunities, then today I'm going to show you how to quickly and easily raise all the money you need, and how to do it with blinding speed as well. You know, raising $2 to $5 million in a single day, it's pretty common, in fact, in the model that I use. But you don't have to take my word for it, actually. This fellow here, his name is Darwin German. He's done, probably a lot of you on the line know him, I bet. He's done well over $400 million in multifamily real estate deals. The guy knows what he's doing. He called me in late March of this year, 2 months ago, something like that, to help him raise some money rather urgently. And he did have an urgent need. They had to move very quickly. And 3 days later, he had commitments for nearly $3 million. I mean, 3 days after he called me. Not 3 days after I got started, 3 days after he called me, like it was that fast. And note this happened, by the way, over the first weekend when the entire country was shut down from the coronavirus scare. And absolutely everybody, including investors, they're all terrified at that moment in time. Yet still, my method worked like a charm. And now the reason that this guy, Darwin German, came to me for help was because he was referred to me by another client and friend named Merrill Calliser. Some of you might know him as well. Merrill is one of the top securities attorneys in the country. He's also an expert investor himself with an amount of experience that dwarfs what practically any of the rest of us have ever done. The guy's bought over 9,500 single family houses. Think about that. So when he called me in October last year, he was approaching something of a do or die situation. He had to get his big multifamily deal funded within 10 days. And it was a good deal. It's not one he wanted to lose. He needed more than $2 million of additional cash, or he'd lose this deal that had massive profit built into it, and the $225,000 earnest money deposit he had already placed. He was going to lose that if he didn't get the money in time. So I did a consulting day with him on a Thursday. By Friday afternoon, he had all the money he needed such that he was able to turn investors away at that point. So let me ask you this. How would you like that? Not to just be able to raise money, but to have people actually waiting their turn to put money into your projects. Well, I got some bad news for you on that. That just can't be reality for everybody. It can't. But by using the strategies to which I'll now introduce you, that can be the case for you. So I want you to listen closely. There's not going to be a lot on the screen as much as you might see normally with some people. I want you to listen to my words. Focus very closely. Let's do a bit of foundation here. I'm not going to waste my time telling you about the top tier publications for which I write or the universities for which I teach or the many hundreds of millions of dollars that my clients and I have raised. You can look all that stuff up on your own if you want. But here's what I will tell you. In each of the case studies that I've already shared with you and all of the ones that are to follow hereafter, every one of those clients paid me $25,000 a day for my consulting expertise. Every single one of them. No discounts. I don't do discounts. I tried to offer a guy a discount once here recently because I could see how badly off course he was. And the thanks I got was a snarky letter from his son making demands far beyond his ken. So I fired that client and returned their discounted fee before our consultation day began. And never again will I offer anybody a discount and waste my time like that. So here's the thing. I'm not here to offer that $25,000 consulting day service to you. So relax. Instead, I'm here to tell you how I deliver on the promise of helping my clients raise large amounts of capital very, very quickly. And I'll show you exactly what it is that I do that makes me worth that amount of money so that you too can raise all the capital you need and maybe even replace all of your other income with an amazing source, which is that of being a professional capital raiser. And hey, lest you think that the examples I've given you so far are isolated incidents, I want you to know that I do an average of 2 to 4 of those consultation projects each and every month. I presently have 2 appointments set for just this coming week for prospects who have been referred to me for that service. And statistically, I know at least one, probably both of them will convert into a $25,000 per day client. And they'll come out the other side very, very happy. Now, look, I want to be clear to you. I'm not bragging to you right now. In fact, I honest before God right now can tell you that I still pinch myself and say a legitimate prayer of thanks each and every time I get to work with a client in that capacity. Right now, before you all, I say thank you to God in heaven. I mean that sincerely, from whom every single blessing flows. I know it's all from you, God. I mean that sincerely. So this isn't to impress you, but it is to tell you how astoundingly valuable the skills are you're about to learn. So that's enough setup. I do want you to know that at the end of this presentation, I will be offering some of you an invitation to attend my 2-day training class, where I teach the entire process that I use in my consultation work, because I do have a training class coming up very soon. I'll also go ahead and tell you that while you won't pay anything near 25 grand a day, my trainings are rather pricey because it's the most valuable skill you can learn. And furthermore, I'll tell you that more of you are going to want to sign up for it than the 9 seats I have available. But so that you can relax and not fear for a sales pitch, I can tell you that today I won't even be giving you a link where you can sign up. Nothing like that. Because before you're even qualified to pay to attend my training, you and I have to speak one-on-one on the phone to make sure we're a good fit, because frankly, I won't work with everybody. I'm kind of selective. So having said all that, let me show you why I can speak to you so confidently about all of this. My friends, raising capital is not really about what any of you think it's about. It's not about harassing your friends and your family for money. It's not about building business plans and pitch decks and making deeply logical presentations that will convince people to give you their money. It's about one thing and one thing only: presenting investment opportunities to investors in such a way that they know they'll be kicking themselves if they don't jump in and take part. That's what you've got to create, is a situation where, after hearing about your deal, that person knows they're a complete jackass if they don't get in. It's all about presenting a small amount of information, the right information, and present it in the right way, in the right order, such that prospective investors will generate within themselves an overwhelming desire to move forward, to participate, and to actually put their cash in your care. In other words, it's not about throwing so much information and so much hard data at your investors that they'll relent and give you their money. But rather, it's about presenting a few key facts in a carefully worded manner such that they know within themselves and without your ever having to beg or ever seem desperate in any way, that they really should jump into your deal. It's in their best interest. Now, rather than giving you a dull listing of instructions on how to do that, I think it might be better for me to just demonstrate it. I hope you agree. Take notes, my friends, and I offer you this warning. You should take this warning seriously. I'm going to give you two very short demonstrations right now. They're going to be a subset, basically just a few minute section of a bigger webinar presentation that I built for both of these projects. Now, both of these demonstrations that I'm going to give you now, they're real deals. For the first demonstration, it's a project which I'm starting the capital raise this coming week. My first webinar, the webinar from which I extracted this subset that I'm about to share with you, that webinar I'm delivering the very first time on Tuesday of this week. The other sample project, the oil and gas project I'll tell you about, that's 2 weeks later. But here's the warning I've got to give you, and I want you to take this very seriously. After hearing these demonstrations, several of you will likely want to reach out to me and learn how to participate in the project after even just the tiny amount of information that I'm about to share with you. You won't see the whole thing, just a piece of it. Now, I know this because each time I do my 2-day capital raising seminar, a key piece of that training is that I do several full webinar demonstrations. I perform entire webinars from beginning to end, 2 or 3 of them, to my students. And invariably, some of those students who did not come to that class looking for investment opportunities, but they're coming to that class learning with the intention of learning how to fund their own investment opportunities. Well, invariably, some of those students choose to pony up $100,000 plus or more to invest in my deals. In fact, that happened in the class I did just 3 weeks ago, as 2 of the students in that class of 10 people or so actually invested their capital after a demonstration just like what you're about to see, so be prepared. And with that, here's a brief example, probably 10 minutes max or so for what I call the 2020 RV fund, which even in my business where I have tremendous deal flow and the ability, again, thank you God, I don't take it for granted, but the ability to really pick and choose and work only with the very best projects, even with that as the caveat, this project may well be the single best overall project that I've ever seen. I'll deliver this to you as if I'm delivering it to a group of prospective investors, and every now and again, I might call time out to tell you what I said or why I said what I said. So with that, here's the bottom line, my friends. This project, the 2020 RV Fund, is all about taking advantage of the single most attractive asset class in the real estate world right now, which is RV parks and campgrounds. RVs are, of course, those kind of bus-like private hotel rooms that families drive around the country, and they park these vehicles at places called RV parks and campgrounds, which provide either a concrete or a gravel pad along with hookups for utilities and water and such. And they pay a nightly fee of 30 to 80 bucks or so. And sometimes they even rent out a spot for the entire season. Now, in just a minute, I'm going to tell you the Wall Street angle. This is going to blow your mind when you hear this. I'm going to tell you the Wall Street angle on why RV parks and campgrounds are so wildly attractive. In fact, here are the big 3 reasons why RV parks overall are so deeply exciting right now. Reason number 1, cold, hard profitability. Listen closely, my friends. Here's a short version, which is actually quite revealing. In the RV parks that we already own, me and my partners already own several of these RV parks. We have hundreds and hundreds of sites that we rent out at $30 to $80 per night. For that, we only have to provide a small piece of land. It's barely more than the size of 4 parking spaces. And the only thing on that land is a small concrete or gravel pad and a hookup for electricity and water. That's it. For that, we get $30 to $80 a night. But by comparison, what if you're renting out a house or an apartment unit? Well, if that unit rents for $1,000 per month, that's only $33 a day. That's on the low end of what we get for RV sites. But what do you have to provide for $33 a day? Well, there's a big piece of land, and there's an entire structure with bedrooms and bathrooms and living rooms and kitchen and carpet and heating and air and a roof and everything that goes along with it and maintenance services, et cetera, et cetera. At $33 a day, you're providing a whole lot more than we provide. And it's at a much higher cost to you. Of course, more specifics that I can share with you, but the bottom line is this: our profit margins are insanely attractive. It's that simple. But profit potential never becomes actual profit without strong demand, does it? And that leads to reason number 2 of why you should invest in RV parks, and that is strong and growing demand. For example, the RV Industry Association tells us that over 9 million families presently own RVs, and data site Statista tells us that nearly 42 million Americans go RV camping of some sort each and every year. 42 million. There are only about 16,000 parks total in the United States, many of which are counted in that number, but are not of sufficient quality to merit consideration from RV owners. This translates to one reality: there's a tremendous shortage of RV park space. So at the core, what we have is an asset class that is fundamentally very highly profitable, and we have a clear present day shortage of supply for RV parks, and that's great, but we have something even better still. I've got actual hard data from our currently operating parks to share with you, the same parks that are part of the opportunity that I'm sharing with you today. First, just know that for this season, coronavirus land, our parks have been fully reserved for months in advance. Months. That's great. Certainly confidence inspiring despite the coronavirus, despite economic uncertainty, despite the protests and riots and unrest. Our parks are basically sold out. Point is, demand for our property was high before COVID-19 and remains high during COVID-19. And the LA Times recognized this phenomenon early on when it published this article in late March. There's just simply no data at all to suggest anything other than that there is massive and strong and growing demand for RV parks. And reason number 3 of why invest in RV parks, number 1 being incredible profitability, number 2 being incredible demand, but number 3, RV parks, well, it's summed up in this word. Listen closely: positioning. This is the Wall Street angle. Positioning, specifically positioning in the financial markets. You see, Wall Street has had a voracious appetite for real estate related assets in the past 15 years. They've gobbled up everything that could be produced, like large multifamily syndications, portfolios of single family rentals, portfolios of notes and mortgages, collections of storage facilities, office and industrial space, even cold storage facilities. And among the few remaining subcategories of real estate that remains fractured and therefore very attractive to the big money interests on Wall Street, if anybody will come along and put some of those properties together, well, it's this tiny little niche of RV parks. But it's certainly not unknown to the smart money types. The single largest owner of RV parks in the country is none other than multi-billionaire Sam Zell, who's the chairman of several publicly traded REITs like Equity Residential and Covanta Holdings. Zell has been quite active in purchasing roll-ups of groups of high-yielding RV parks, and what we're seeing is rather serious interest from Wall Street firms in this sector because the fundamentals of even ordinary RV park deals are so deeply attractive. But my friends, the opportunity before you today is anything but ordinary. I call it the 2020 RV Fund, and where RV parks are generally desirable, very desirable as an asset class, the first 2 specific properties that are part of the 2020 RV Fund are nothing short of glittering jewels of opportunity. Now, my friends, let's take a short time out for just a moment. That's just a piece of the presentation for the 2020 RV Fund. And here's what I know. I know that already right now, many of you are having a strong degree of curiosity about the potential of investing in RV parks and campgrounds. Probably nobody has ever revealed to you before that you actually make the same or even much more profit at a much lower cost from renting out RV spots as you would from renting out units in an apartment. And yet you can see just from the little info that I've shared with you so far that it totally makes sense that that's true. You've also started to get some sense of the demand for these parks from the public. And more importantly, you now have a sense also that there's interest in this asset class from Wall Street. And that's the kind of interest that tends to drive up values for assets very quickly and very substantially as well. Now, I suspect you see already that you're finding real curiosity growing within you. And I haven't even told you a single detail about the specific project for which we're now raising capital. So now To end this little timeout, I'll wrap up this demonstration as follows. Now, my friends, the fundamentals for the RV parks business, it's incredibly strong, and practically every astute observer sees it. In fact, the whole coronavirus situation has made the argument for RV parks even stronger, and you need not take my word for that. As everyone from the Wall Street Journal with this very recent article to Good Morning America with this thing that says distance vacations are the trend and safe travel during COVID-19, to this write-up in Newsweek that was really quite interesting. RVs could be the answer to your summer travel plans. Here's what to know. And that's not all. That's just all I'll put in here. There are others from Forbes, from the LA Times, and many, many more other highly reputable publications, all published in the last 60 days, and they're all universally saying what a few of us already know, that RV parks are poised for exceptional growth as a direct beneficiary of the coronavirus terror. And look, we, meaning me and the other two members of the management team of the 2020 RV Fund, who are Daniel Medina, he has over $500 million of incredibly successful real estate project experience behind him. And he's the inexperienced one compared to the main project manager, whose name is Christopher Kalavokis. Chris has over $5 billion worth of successful real estate project experience. And look, your note investors, let me tell you what I mean. You know, you guys all know that you could probably spend something like, I don't know, $12 and buy $5 billion worth of defaulted notes, right? Now, it might not be quite that extreme, but you know what I'm talking about. This ain't that. I'm talking about $5 billion worth of deals, not nothing where there's inflated values involved. This guy's done over $5 billion worth of real estate deals. And all of us have kind of put our money where our mouth is on this deal, folks. We've already provided from our own pockets and from loans that we've already arranged and guaranteed ourselves north of $15 million of capital for this project. We've already purchased the two RV parks that are the centerpiece of the 2020 RV Fund because we found these properties. We knew they were a great opportunity and we didn't want to lose them. So we went ahead and bought them before even raising the money because we figured we'll keep them one way or the other. In other words, we're not asking you to take a risk that we wouldn't take because we already have. And since this is just a brief demonstration, my friends, I do want to share this with you. Our expectations on this project will be very attractive to you, I suspect. Bottom line, we're very, very conservatively and reasonably expecting our investors to enjoy an overall average annual rate of return in this project of 27 to 29% per year. Did you hear that? 27 to 29% per year, totally passively. Just remember, the supposed king of investing, Warren Buffett, well, his company, Berkshire Hathaway, well, he's only increased at an average of less than 8% per year in the last 20 years. Bet you didn't know that, did you? And we very reasonably expect that you're going to enjoy results on the order of 3 to 4 times that much. And by the way, the reason that we're confident of this, and you've probably, if you've ever invested in somebody else's project, every pro forma looks good, doesn't it? Every one of them looks like this a deal that can't miss. Well, here's why we're so confident in our numbers and our projections. There's a good reason for it. The primary manager in this project, Christopher Kalavokis, well, he says it's accurate. Well, that's not a very good reason all by itself, is it? Well, turns out it is, yeah. Chris Kalavokis' fingerprints can be seen all over the upper echelons of Wall Street. At 76 years old and with literally 50 years of experience in the financial world, Chris's firm, RER Financial, it's one of the premier analytics and due diligence firms in America. His client roster is like a who's who of the financial world, including Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, Merrill Lynch, Carlyle Group, Citigroup, Deutsche Bank, Fortress Investment Group, literally dozens more well-known, highly respected companies. Whenever firms like these need a very conservative, careful eye to evaluate loan portfolios, real estate projects, and other financial assets, that's when Chris gets the call because of his long, deep relationships as a key provider of due diligence services to the very best companies on Wall Street. At one of these companies alone, Fortress Investments, You know, they're a huge private equity firm with over $41 billion under management. Well, at that company alone, 3 of the most senior executives at that firm learned directly from Chris because they worked for him over the years at RER. That's the caliber of management who will be handling this project for investors who are so fortunate as to participate. And let me tell you this, to make it very clear to you, my friends, there's tremendous demand in the marketplace for strong investment opportunities. And that's true right now in this coronavirus infested world in which we live. According to the Wall Street Journal, from an article called Cash Pours into Distressed Real Estate Funds as Investors Aim to Play Offense, in early April, listen to this, in early April, about 1,000 new investment funds were set up, seeking out a whopping $297 billion of capital, mostly for blind investment funds. Now that's a record-setting amount of capital collection for even a normal time, much less when we're in the middle of a pandemic. And blind investment funds, those are funds where the investors don't even get to know what assets they're purchasing ahead of time. And somehow, the appetite for this is voracious out there among affluent investors. It's actually kind of disturbing. In fact, one firm down in Florida, Kane Anderson, they raised $1.3 billion in only 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And that would normally have taken them 12 to 18 months. It's terrifying, really. But in the 2020 RV fund, we're not running a blind fund. We're not seeking out anything near $1.3 billion. We're raising a relatively tiny $7.5 million total, which means we have room for an absolute maximum of 75 investors, since the minimum capital quality for this project is $100,000 per investor. Only 75 spots. So when I open this project to my database of over 600,000 email subscribers, it's going to go really quickly. Okay, folks, time out. What are you feeling and sensing at the moment? Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I'm here to learn how to raise capital, not get pitched on a deal. Keep your eye on the ball, people. I'm giving you a demonstration here. But for the rest of you, for most of you, you're starting to get a sense that there's a distinctly limited amount of opportunity for you to get involved in this project. Only 75 spaces for investor partners. And that it makes sense for you to think seriously about jumping in, because the asset class itself is clearly so strong. And because the financial projections for this project are themselves so strong. And because there's reason to have tremendous confidence in the quality of those projections based on the 50-year, $5 billion career of the primary manager, Mr. Christopher Kalavokis. Now, understand that although I know that some of you probably will end up actually reaching out to me with interest in participating in this project as a result of this very brief demonstration, know this, I'm not pitching this deal to you right now. I'm just giving you a demonstration. So you're free to be honest with yourself about what you're feeling right now. And for most of you, that's a somewhat uncomfortable mix of curiosity and interest and maybe even concern that you might not get to be one of the lucky 75. And that is all on purpose. Now, my friends, I'll tell you this, I will raise this money in a very short period of time. This is a great deal. It'll go quickly, no worries whatsoever. But here's what I want you to understand, okay? What if you could do the same thing? What if it was within your power to raise that much money that quickly and to do it over and over and over again? What if, instead of having to be focused on individual note deals or individual houses or anything one-off like that, you could instead focus your efforts on much bigger portfolios of notes, or on multifamily properties, or on any other asset class that you prefer, all because you have the single most powerful skill in the world today, and that is the ability to raise capital. That, my friends, is what I'm offering to you here today. You see, the centerpiece of my method of raising capital is always a webinar. Similar in some ways to what I'm doing right now, but radically different in some ways as well. It's similar in that you'll learn how to create a webinar that basically puts a vice grip around the mind and the emotions of your prospective investors, such that they can't help but see the wisdom of participating in your high quality project. And that is a must. You've got to have a high quality project. If you don't, then the scary reality is that my techniques are strong enough that you'll probably even be able to sell low quality projects, but you shouldn't do it. But high quality projects, it's easy. It's easy. Using my strategies creates a circumstance whereby instead of ever having to go and beg or plead with anybody for capital, after seeing your well-engineered webinar, they'll be coming to you to apply to participate in your project. They'll be working to qualify themselves to you. And the power dynamic will have shifted radically and entirely in your favor. Think about what that would be like for investors to come to you, asking you to participate in your deals. That's what I can show you how to create. Of course, you've got to know the whole process, not just the webinar part, even though the webinar is the single most important part of the entire system by far, no doubt about it. Now, in my model, there are 5 simple steps, 5 overall steps. And those who attend my 2-day training event, it's called the 1-day capital raise, because we're frequently able to raise a huge amount of money in a single day. But when you learn the 1-day capital raise system, I'll teach you all 5 parts, everything from how to get people to watch your webinar to making sure they actually have the money, all the way to the point of getting them to actually sign on the dotted line and turn the money over to you. And folks, this stuff ain't theory. It ain't theory. In fact, another quick case study will help you see that quite clearly, I think. And this case study, I suspect there might be 1 or 2 of you on the line who actually witnessed this one firsthand. 3 weeks ago, on May 21st and 22nd, I was delivering my 2-day seminar. We do it only virtually presently, but I was delivering my 2-day seminar 2 weeks ago to my clients who wanted to learn how to do the same thing that I do, which is to raise lots of capital on demand and raise it quickly and easily. So on Wednesday, May 20th, which was the day before my seminar began, I got a call from a fellow named Bo Flowers. Now, Bo runs an oil and gas company in Texas. It's a small company. And Bo was in a bit of a do or die situation himself. He didn't need a lot of money. He only needed $550,000, but he needed it yesterday. He needed it quick, fast, and in a hurry. Furthermore, he had burned out his database. Like his email list was small to begin with. It had something on the order of 1,400 people on it, as I recall. Might have been a few more, a few less, but about that. And he hadn't gotten anybody on that list to invest with him in over a year and a half. So this is a dead database. So I asked Bo a few questions, and I made a decision. My decision was that I think that he wasn't getting money out of that database because he didn't know how, not because there wasn't any to be had. So for that seminar on the 21st and 22nd of May, my students got kind of a unique situation, because during that time, I used that to demonstrate to them in real time how to raise capital, and they got to see it right before their eyes. So on the first day of the seminar, I created a capital raising webinar using the principles that I've developed over many, many years. And wouldn't you know it, even though we went straight to his database, his dead database, he didn't merely get the $550,000 in investment capital that he wanted. He got all that for sure, but once he got that, he was actually able to begin collecting people on standby for the next project. And in fact, he's already retained me for his next project, another oil and gas deal. In fact, I'm going to tell you about that one real quickly. I'm not going to give you as much of a demonstration of this one as I did the first one, but I do want to give you some key facts about that project. Again, this is a real project. I'm going to start the capital raise for this in roughly 2 weeks. It'll probably take me about that much time, maybe less, probably less, to raise the $7.5 million for the 2020 RV fund, because I'll probably have to do 2 different webinars over a couple of different days. So 2 weeks or so, I'm going to start the raise for this oil deal. And look, the three big reasons, I want you to put on your investor cap for a moment and just follow me along. Even if you're not actively in the market for an investment right now, that's fine. I want you to just act as if you were. Listen to this. The three big reasons to take an interest in this oil and gas project that I'm going to be raising here very soon are these. Number one, the cash flow on this deal is stupid high. It's stupid high. If you know anything about oil and gas, you know that it's not uncommon. It's really actually pretty typical for the cash on cash returns in those deals to be way higher than you can get anywhere else, just way higher. And in this project, the expectation is for a cash on cash result of well over 60% per year. And that's actually, that's me putting a conservative spin on what they told me they expect. Okay. That's a lot. 60% a year, that's a lot. Now, that's not the only reason to be interested in this. It's a darn good one, but it's not the only one. Number two, the second reason is this. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, 100% tax deductibility. That's right. For every single dollar of the roughly $110,000 minimum investment size, you'll get to deduct that from your income taxes. Now, I know there are probably a lot of real estate people on here that think, yeah, but I can do that with depreciation in real estate. Well, no, you can't. This is not depreciation. Look, let's just be honest, shall we? Depreciation doesn't really help most people. Most people can't even take their full depreciation deductions. They just can't do it. The law doesn't allow it. But in oil and gas, it's a different game. It's a different deduction. You get to deduct. Talk to your CPA, of course, confirm that. That's very important. But you get to deduct 100%, every single penny. Almost everybody gets to deduct every single penny of that $110,000 investment. That means that if, for example, you make $300,000 a year from your job and you take a $110,000 deduction from your oil and gas investments, now you only have to pay taxes on $190,000 rather than $300,000. Think about that. That will quite directly save most investors something on the order of $35,000 to $50,000 right off the bat. Real estate can't compete with that. Well, that's not all. There's a third reason to be really excited about this particular project. It's risk mitigation. Risk mitigation. Look, oil and gas is risky. It's not appropriate for most people. It's possible with these projects, it's possible that we could drill a hole in the ground and it turns out there's no oil there. It's not likely at all, but it is possible. But because of the way that we are combining two different wells in this project, one that has a normal risk profile and one with an incredibly attractive risk profile, the odds of success are astoundingly high. It's just a great project overall. The kind of project that makes an immediate and a lasting impact for investors who are lucky enough to participate. But look, there's even less room for participation in this project than in the 2020 RV fund because we're only raising $2.2 million for this project. Each unit is $110,000, so we can take a hard maximum of 20 investors in this project in about 2 weeks when I open it up. That's not even including the people who are stacked up from the last raise we did for these guys and who are just waiting to invest in the next deal. So it's actually less than 20 spots. Now, I want you to think about this for a very brief moment, and I'm almost done with this demonstration, and then we're going to talk turkey, get into some details. What if you invested $110,000 and you were able to get an income tax benefit right away, or maybe even spread that over a few years if that's better for you, but you were able to have real income tax savings of 35 to 50 grand right off the bat, which effectively cuts your investment by better than a third, and then you're still collecting $5,000 to $6,000 each and every month in free and clear cash flow, and you'd have reasonable expectation to collect that for many years on end. That, my friends, is not a pipe dream. That is not a hallucination. That's real, And note that I haven't really even given you any magical phrases in this description, nothing like that. I've not used any flowery language to describe this project, but still, you find yourself right now imagining, what would it be like to experience those results? You find yourself thinking things like, wow, and what if? And you also realize that the opportunity to be a participant in that project is extremely, extremely small, because we're only accepting capital from a maximum of 20 people, some of whom have already been identified. Well, my friends, the good news is that building presentations like what I've just shared a small portion of, it can be, and I have in fact reduced it to formula. That is what I teach in my 2-day class. Here in just a minute, I'll tell you about that. But understand this. If you look at the 25 or so biggest companies in America, exactly 0 of them are real estate companies. But a bunch of them, like JP Morgan and Bank of America and Fannie Mae, they are financial companies. If you add in oil and gas companies, that's another 5 out of the top 25 companies in America. But again, those aren't really real estate companies. Even Fannie Mae, that is a lender. What's the lesson here? My friends, the money is in the money, not in the deals. The money is in the money. Wouldn't you love the chance to take a slice of a lot of different note portfolios or multifamily projects or oil and gas wells or private companies or nearly anything else you can imagine, just because you are what I call a center of influence? You're someone who, when you want to, you have the ability to actually really raise money and make great projects happen. That is being a center of influence, and that is a power position. This is not theory, my friends. I'm raising capital for the 2020 RV Fund project. I want you to listen to this. My cut of that will conservatively be worth $3.5 to $4 million in probably 4 years from now. That'll be worth a whole lot right off the bat, but in 4 years, it'll be worth $3.5 to $4 million. It's going to take me about 2 weeks to raise the money for that. And my responsibility thereafter is not a whole lot. And I've also got a cut of 2 oil and gas projects, which will throw off about $25,000 a month total. And I'll have 2 more such ownership units within a few weeks. I'll be a 1/3 owner of a very, very desirable brand new multifamily real estate project in Phoenix, Arizona. And I won't be putting a single penny into that deal. I'll simply raise the capital for that project using the 5-step 1-day capital raise model. And you can do the same thing. I'm teaching the 1-day capital raise seminar on July 2nd and 3rd, which is coming up here soon. And yes, I know that it's ironic that it takes 2 days to learn something that I call the 1-day capital raise, but let's just say I'm being thorough, okay? Anyway, the next such training is on July 2nd and 3rd, and it will be delivered virtually online via a system kind of like what you see right here, except for that you'll be able to talk back to me and I can see you and you can see me and we can totally interact with each other. You know, I want to share with you the 5 specific steps I'll be teaching you in that model here in just a moment. But first, I will go ahead and give you the details of that training, and then we'll get back into some more content. First of all, the training is not cheap. It is, however, life-changing. The cost for the product for the training is $6,000 per person. There is not a price drop coming. It is $6,000 per person, period. I take a hard maximum of 10 people per class, so there's plenty of time for individual interaction. Unfortunately, at least 1 and maybe 2, I don't recall clearly at the moment, of those seats are already taken. So I think there were 80 plus of you on the line when I looked a little while ago. You get to duke it out for that remaining 8 seats. You can take the class all day, both days. And at the end of day 2, if you feel like you didn't get what you hoped for, you get your money back, period. I don't really need your money, and I won't keep it if you don't think I earned it. But you can't come just because you want to come. You really can't. Instead, you and I have to speak personally. For that reason, if you'd like to apply to attend my class, you can text the word cap raise to 555-888. It's there on your screen. It's spelled cap raise with no spaces. Just text cap raise to 555-888. And now I'm going to get into the 5 steps of the one-day capital raise system. And I'm also going to stop for just a moment and see if there are any particular questions that have come in. Hey, Scott, is there anything that I should see?
Nope, you're good right now.
Just continue.
You're good right now. Keep continuing. You're good.
Okay, cool stuff. All right, there are 5 steps involved in the one-day capital raise. Now, it's called the one-day capital raise because we really reduce the part of. By the way, I see. Yeah, somebody said something about, and then there is recapture. They were talking about depreciation in real estate. Yeah, that's right. Anytime you take depreciation, there's recapture too. That's not really a permanent solution. But this tax break that you get from oil and gas is like real, and there's no recapture ever. It's amazing. It's like the best tax benefit you can imagine. Anyway, the 5 steps in the one-day capital raise are as follows. First, lead generation. Some of you might already have a database of people who, yeah, the RV applies to any state in the USA, and anybody can get involved in that. Well, not anybody. You got to be I tell you what, I'm not going to answer specific questions about that project because I'm really not here to pitch that. If you want to send in questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I'll probably answer them offline about the projects. Okay, so step 1 is lead generation. Some of you might have a database already, like an email database or even a physical database or something like that. And so if that's the case, that's great. You've got a starting point. If you have that, that's wonderful. If you don't have that, it doesn't matter because I'm going to teach you how to generate high quality leads that will be appropriate for presenting high quality investment opportunities to them. So if you happen to have the ability to find great note portfolios, and I suspect there might be some of those coming down the pipe here sometime soon. I don't know about you guys, but I'm guessing there might be some of that. If you have the ability to get in front of good deals like that, but you don't have anybody to raise the money from, step 1 is lead generation. I will show you several ways that you can go about building a database of people to whom you can sell your properties. That you can involve in your investment projects, because the way these projects are structured, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, the way they're structured is something called a syndication. A syndication is really just a partnership. It's just a partnership, and what you do is you serve as the general partner. You're the one who's in control of everything. And what you do is you go out and find a collection of limited partners. These are the people who have money, and they give you their money, and you use that money to invest and make the partnership as a whole worth more than just the money that they gave you originally, right? That's the whole idea. And so if you don't know who those people who would be your limited partners, if you don't know, have a database that might serve as a source for those people, I'm going to show you how to generate such a database, how to generate such a list. That's where we start in the order flow. Now, the second step is really the most important. It is the webinar. We're going to come back to the webinar in just a moment because I want to spend a couple of minutes on that, focused on that. But the webinar is, just from a big overview, generally speaking, it's just a slideshow. Now, I know that you see me talking to you right now, and that there have been some images that have popped up right there, and various things like that you've seen. You don't have to do what I'm doing right now. What I'm doing right now is what's called a talking head presentation, because it's me actually talking to you. Most of my clients, here's what they do. I teach them how to write a script, like a word for word script. And I show them some pretty powerful language patterns that really tend to go a long way towards helping with the process of persuading people to be interested in your project. But I teach them to write a script, and I show them kind of how they might build slides. Because it turns out that the way most people build slides is not just wrong, it's actually counterproductive to raising capital and to establishing credibility. And the good news is that anybody can establish credibility if you've got a good deal and you've got a good strategy. If we can prove those things, if we can give some evidence that you have a good deal and a good strategy, I can show you how to create credibility such that people will be inclined to trust you, okay? That part's not particularly challenging. But the webinar is all that. And then you don't have to do what I'm doing, as I said. What you do instead is you sit down in front of your computer with nobody else watching, and you get a piece of software that will allow you to record the screen and record your voice. And you sit there and you record the script. You just read the script and you switch slides every now and again. And at the end, you have a recording of your presentation. Well, what does that mean for those of you who are terrified of being in front of a live audience or even in front of a webinar audience? It means you don't ever have to do that. It means that you can record this presentation. This presentation is do or die. Like if you screw it up, you're not going to win. But the good news is that you can do it before anybody ever sees it. And you know what? Every time I record such a webinar, I screw it up many, many times. Like I have this little strategy that I use whenever I'm recording a webinar and I mess up, because I do it a lot of times in every single recording. Whenever I mess up, I'm not going to do it here because it'll hurt your ears. But what I always do is I clap real loud twice whenever I'm recording a webinar, because what it'll do is put a couple of little spikes on the audio monitor of the software that I'm using to record. And that means all I got to do is go back to that point and cut out whatever mistake I made. That makes it really fast and easy. And it also means it doesn't really cost you anything to screw up. It's easy to correct. So even for those of you who are concerned about the idea of having to speak in public or something like that, it's never necessary for you to do that. It's just not. So that's the second part. And we'll come back to that a little bit later. The third step is this. Remember, you've got your lead generation as step one. You've got your webinar as step two. And once somebody watches that webinar, out on the other side, the people who respond to that webinar are people who know a lot more than when they started. They know what your deal is all about. They know what the minimum investment is. They know any other criteria that you have put in place for them to be able to participate. They know basically that there's a limited amount of opportunity for them to get involved. They're coming to you at that point with all of the information that you have fed to them, so that they know this is a limited opportunity. They can't just get in just because they want to. And at this point, after the webinar, is the third step, what I call the disqualification call. And this is basically the call where you talk to them, or someone from your staff talks to them and says, basically, do you have the money? Are you an accredited investor, or are there any other requirements that you have? And are you ready to go, in the appropriate time frame? Now, there's a little more to it than that, and we have some elegant and very kind of sophisticated ways to ask those questions, because the data that we collect there, we're actually going to use it later in some ways that will really kind of blow your mind once you come to the training and hear all about it. But that's the third step, is the disqualification call, because we want to know absolutely, positively, without a doubt, who are the people who absolutely can invest if they choose to do so. And after the disqualification call, you have that information. You know who can and who cannot invest with you. Then after that is basically the big moment. Depending on the time frame, like outside of the coronavirus world, I like for people to actually have a live event, like a small live event. And you invite those 10 to 15, those people who got through the disqualification call and they are qualified. And you invite a small group of those people, 10 to 15 of them or so, to physically come to a location together. If your asset happens to be focused in a particular geographic area, then you'd want to have the event there. But that's the fourth step, is the event. And the event is really incredibly simple. That's scripted almost entirely. It starts out with just kind of a repeat of your webinar, just kind of reselling people and the reason why they're there. And then you put them in a bus or a van and you drive around town and show them what you want them to see. Now, there's some art to that, and we give you some very specific guidelines on how to do that. But that's the fourth step, is the event itself. And then the fifth step It's the really important one. It's the close. This is the part where we actually help you do exactly what it takes to, number one, get these people to sign the legal documents to become your partner. And number two, get them to hand over the damn money. That's what step 5 is all about. And that's actually scripted out. Like whenever you come to the one-day capital raise training, what's going to happen is that I give you some slides and some documentation that you can just basically read it off. Like that's the beautiful thing about this system, guys, is that there are 5 steps, and 4 of those 5 steps are highly resistant to error. Lead generation, you can screw it up and still correct that and be fine. The disqualification call, you can screw that up and still correct it and be fine. The event itself, you can screw that up and it's really easy to correct it on the spot. The fifth one, the fifth part, the close, that's actually really easy to correct as well, because what you're going to find out is when people actually show up at this event, they're ready to invest. All you've got to do is not give them a reason not to. I'll tell you what we do now that it's coronavirus land and people don't necessarily want to meet in just a second. The only part of this system that is not highly error resistant, step number 2, the webinar. And that's why in the training, we spend most of our time focused on the webinar. And it's also why it's a beautiful thing, my friends, that in the model that I will teach you, you can actually script out your webinar 100% in advance using verbiage and language structures that I have worked on and developed and perfected over years and years and years of doing thousands of webinars. I've done a lot of these things. I suspect you can get the impression right now that this might not be my first time doing this. It's not. And I know how to speak and write in a way that gets in people's head. I'm going to show you that you can do the same thing. And even though that section of the 5 steps is the one that is not very error resistant, you really have to get it right. You've got to get the webinar right. But the fact that you can record it, like you can record it, test it, make sure it's perfect in every way, and then you can post it online out there. I'll show you how to do this. You can post it online out there as a webinar that people don't even know it's a recording. They think they're listening to a live presentation. And you get to do that all in advance, and you don't have to worry about screwing up the one part of the system that is highly, that is the centerpiece, the one part that if you screw it up, it will mess up. You don't have to worry about that because you can do it and record it and have it perfectly done in advance. All right, my friends? Now, remember, let's keep our eye on the ball here. The reason that we want to do any of this is because, guys, there is tremendous opportunity out there. Here's the deal. Bad things have been happening in our country for 3 months now. It's been astounding. It's been just astounding. I mean, by and large, what we've had is economic carnage since the end of March. Everything about it has been horrible. Take that back. Those job numbers on Friday, dear God, 2.5 million jobs added. If that won't make you a Trump supporter, I don't know what will. But that's another discussion we'll have a different day. But 2.5 million jobs last week. That's kind of weird, don't you think, in an environment like we've had? But also look at the stock market. You are aware, aren't you, that the stock market took a really big dump, like in late March and early April. Like it was slaughtered. But you are aware, aren't you, that the stock market is again within about 10% of its all-time highs. Yeah, right now, that's true. Guys, why would that happen? Why would that happen? My friends, it's because right now we have a situation that I've never lived through, and I don't think any of us have ever lived through, and that is a terrible recessionary environment that is 100% not economic. It is not economic in any way. What we had was towards the end of March, we had the strongest economy in the entire freaking world, in the entire history of the world. It's like just one day, turn the engine off and everything went away. My friends, do you think everything actually went away? No, that's not the way things go. That's not reality. That's why, except for in the media, there's been rather aggressive, ebullient optimism going on in the financial markets almost since the very beginning, because everybody who was willing to tell themselves the truth about it knew this fact. They knew that once this virus thing started to tamp down, that the United States economy was going to come roaring back in a massive way. It's going to describe it as a V-shaped recovery. That's what we're seeing, but it might be more like L-shaped. It's astounding what we're seeing. But here's the tie-in to you, my friends. And this is so urgent. Even though this economic downturn, I'm convinced, is going to be fairly short-lived, there is going to be some carnage that happens from it, because a lot of people have already found that they just did not have the liquidity to survive, and that the things that they own, maybe their personal residences or their buildings or their businesses, their other assets, they might have to get rid of those things, and probably at prices that they wouldn't prefer. That's where the opportunity for me and you comes in. That's why you got to have money. Because, my friends, this is the time. These are the days when, if you are astute and you take yourself seriously, these are the days when, if you know how to raise some capital, guys, I don't exaggerate when I tell you that a year from now, you could realistically be worth $20 million more than you are right now. A lot of people will be, because this moment in time is unique. This moment in time has never happened. This moment probably will never happen again. We have an economy that is just roaring. It's like a motorcycle. You know what a motorcycle is like when it's still on the line and it hasn't taken off yet. They haven't really released, but they're starting to rev the engines, and it's screaming and it's screaming and it's screaming. And you know, the very second that they let that thing go and it goes, it's going to be off the line so fast and you'll never see it again. Everybody knows, who's willing to be honest with themselves, that that's exactly what's going to happen with the United States economy. And if you wait, if you tell yourself that there's a little bit more time left, that the idiots out in California haven't opened up yet, and that the idiots up in New York haven't opened up yet, and this means there's still lots of time left, and you can take your time about this. No, you cannot take your time. Now is the moment. Whether you do this with me or whatever else you do, guys, now is the moment. This is one of those times where you can really change things for yourself, but you got to have money. This is not a time where you're going to be able to go to somebody and say, oh, well, just, let's see what we can work out. And you're not going to get the big deals that way. That's going to be the 1 in a million. But there's going to be the 999,999 other exceptional deals that, if you have the money to take those deals down, guys, life can look radically different for you. For those of you who maybe waited a little too long to start saving for retirement, for those of you who maybe have been hit in your savings over the last 10 years or so for whatever reason, and you need to catch up, dear God, now is a time like no other. Like, this moment in time is like the ultimate opportunity to make up for lots of lost time from the past. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. Okay. Now, Scott, help me out a little bit. How much time do I still have here?
Let's see here. You have got, let me pull this back up. Sorry. You got till 3:15 my time. So you got about 15 minutes left.
Okay, cool. So here's what I want to do with you for just a minute, guys. I want to tell you a little bit about how your brain works and why we focus so heavily on the webinar part of the 5-step process. Here's what I've observed over and over, and I need you to listen closely to me about this, because some of you are going to, after hearing this, you're going to say, well, I know how to create a webinar. I'll just go do it myself. And look, more power to you. That's great. But let me go ahead and tell you what you're going to do wrong, because you're going to do exactly the same thing that everybody else does. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to open up PowerPoint and you're going to make a title slide, and it's probably going to have something like maybe the name of your investment fund, and It's going to have maybe a photo, something like that. Then the next slide after that is going to be, there's going to be a picture of you and 3 or 4 or 5 lines of text that tell about your background. And then there's going to be, if there are any other general partners in the project, there's going to be a photo of them and 3 or 4 or 5 lines of text about them. That's going to be another slide. And then there's going to be a photo of the asset that you're trying to raise for, if it's a single asset. And then there's going to be a slide that has a copy of your pro forma, which is just a complicated kind of spreadsheet. You're going to have a spreadsheet in there, and then you're going to have other spreadsheets that show your 3, 5, 7 year projections. There'll probably end up being 4 or 5 spreadsheets in the mix. You'll probably have something about the structure of your business. This is the entity that's the management company, and this is the company that actually holds the asset. You'll have all this stuff, and you'll probably have a little bit in there about the geographic location where your asset's located and why it's such a great area and what all the statistics say, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you'll probably have an instruction in there towards the end that says something like, we need to raise X million dollars. We need to have it by a certain date. And if you're interested, contact us. My friends, if you do that, and if there happen to be any experienced capital raisers on the line right now who raise capital yourself presently, if you're doing that, you are shooting yourself in the foot. You could be raising probably 3 to 5 times more money than you are raising right now. I'm speaking to experienced people right now. For those of you who are not experienced, don't do that. Don't do that, because I'm going to get back to one other thing that I promised to mention a moment ago, which is the one minor way that the process changes and that the 5-step process changes in the COVID environment. But here's the thing. Your mind does not change. Nobody's mind changes. Nobody makes decisions largely on the basis of factual data. Now, that might be contrary to what you think, but it doesn't matter what you think. The reality is that there are really kind of 3 steps involved in decision making. The first one is completely automatic. Like, it's the kind of thing where if you're walking through the woods and you see something that looks like a snake, do you stop and think, is that a snake? And if it's a snake, maybe I should jump backwards. No, you don't do that. You just freaking jump backwards automatically. It's an automatic response. We can't really deal with that too much. But at the next level, there's something called an impression. It's not a decision, it's an impression. And I want you to think about the last time you made an important decision, maybe an investment decision, maybe a spending decision, maybe an employment decision. At some point, probably pretty early in the process, you were leaning pretty well in one direction or the other, all right? You were leaning pretty well. Now, that's an impression. That's not a decision, that's an impression. Getting people to the point of an impression is 80% of the battle. 80% of the battle, it really is. And fortunately, it's pretty easy to influence the way that a person's impressions lean. That's what the webinar is all about. The whole webinar is designed to make people lean in the direction of wanting to participate in your project if and only if they're qualified to do so. Now, the problem is the way that you're going to do it without knowing how to do it correctly is that you're going to give lots of factual data. You're going to give spreadsheets and resumes and yada, 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 all that kind of stuff on the webinar. And that's not the right place for it. You see, all of that stuff is only valuable once a person already has a clear impression that they are interested in investing with you. And once they are interested in investing with you, which is, by the way, what you find out whenever you do the disqualification call, once you are at that point and you know they have a clear impression, that's when you provide the legal documents to them, the pro forma, you provide all the data to them that they actually need to make a final decision. But at that point, most of them are pretty close to nailed down already because you've communicated with them in the way that their mind actually works. Now, this is not standard fare. This is not the way most people make webinars for raising capital. That's why, by the way, this might sound mildly arrogant, but I want to I want to say it so that you understand the extent of the power of what I'm trying to teach you. What I'm telling you right now is that even if you happen to be a very experienced capital raiser, even if you're one of the named gurus who, and I'm not talking to anybody in particular, but like if you happen to be a named guru in the syndication world who has experience raising capital, and you have a database that you raise from, a database full of people who know you and like you and trust you, I'll tell you this much. If you divided your database randomly in half and you got half of it and I got half of it, I will raise more money from your database than you will, even though they know you, like you, and trust you, but they don't know and like and trust me. Why? Because I know how the brain works. And I'm going to speak to them in that way. It's going to prove to be deeply persuasive and highly automated, by the way, because you don't actually have to talk to people individually until after they've already gone through the entire webinar and seen everything that you want them to see, and they already know whether they qualify or not. So you're not going to spend a lot of time talking to people who are not a good fit for you. This is wildly, wildly, wildly efficient for your time. Now, I do want to go back and tell you about the post-COVID version of the system, and it's exactly the same thing. It's just that the fourth step, which is the event might be something in which we do something like this, a Zoom. This is the way we're handling it these days. We do something like this, a Zoom, where the people who make it through the webinar and through the disqualification call, we then invite them, a smaller group of people, to get together with us for an extended period of time, 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on exactly what we're planning to do. And then we'll have the managers of the project be there. We'll have any relevant attorneys join us. We'll have the property managers join us. We'll also make sure that we have lots of photos and or video of the specific asset, if it's that kind of a raise, or of whatever is relevant in the particular case. And we'll just basically do the exact same thing. We'll take them on a tour, and what we'll just do it online. All right. But again, that doesn't even happen until after they've watched the webinar, formed a solid impression. We've then spoken to them to confirm that they are actually qualified, and only then will we invite them to that fourth step, which is the online version of the event. It's the same thing. It really doesn't change. It just means that you don't have to rent a hotel room or take people to lunch or anything like that. All right. So it's really quite simple. Let's see. Just got a question in. It says, if facts are only relevant after you've made an impression, what information do you suggest presenting in your webinar that is better suited to making an impression? Well, Shane, that's kind of why I demonstrated two different sections of a presentation to you. The kind of things that you want to do is that you would like to, ideally what you want to do is you want to find highly reputable sources out there that agree with everything you're saying. You probably noticed that I put a bunch of articles up on screen that supported everything I was saying. That's one thing you want to do. That's a very simple thing. But another thing that you want to do is you want to drive home constantly, over and over and over and over. You want to drive home the fact that this is a limited opportunity. It's not something that everybody can do. This is not just your choice. It's not just about whether you are whether you are interested and or financially qualified. This is about whether you are a fit for this opportunity. What we want to do is shift the power dynamic from them deciding whether or not they want to participate back to us in deciding whether we want to approve their participation, right? And the way to do that is that you use specific language structures that I will teach you during the 2-day training program. And by the way, you don't really even need to master that stuff while you're there, because one of the things that you will take home with you is that I will give you a copy of one of the presentations that I've created. It's the presentation that I use as the basis for every one of the $25,000 a day consulting projects that I do. It's the case study model. And in what that is it's a capital raise webinar that I did 5 or 6 years ago for a $10 million fund that I raised. It was for a blind fund. It was a deal where we were buying properties out in Northern California and renovating them and flipping them. And we did very well with that. We did very well with it, and it was not hard to raise money for it. And I'm going to give you a copy of those slides along with the script that I used for that. And you can just take the information that is in my project out and put the relevant stuff in for yours. And you'll probably find it quite simple to come up with a really high quality webinar that way. I mean, if you do just that much, guys, if you do just that much, what you're going to find is that there is a world of difference, and it is a high quality improvement kind of difference in your capital raise webinars versus the way anybody else does it. And right now, guys, in the world that we're in right now, if you can't do a good webinar to raise capital, you are screwed. Like, this is the thing that matters right now. And if you get just a little bit good at it, you're going to find that there's basically no end to the amount of money that you can raise. That's how powerful it is. So let's see. Other questions have come in. Maurice asks, do you have any more classes after that? There will be other classes. Excuse me, Maurice, I apologize. There will be other classes. I don't have them on the calendar yet. So the answer is yes, but I don't have any dates to give you, because this is really not, guys, this is not the primary thing in my business. I teach this because I enjoy it and it's fun, but I make a lot more money actually doing capital raises. Like, you know, it takes 4 of you guys to make $24,000, and that's for 2 days, and that's less than I make in 1 day. So I do this because it's fun and I enjoy it, but not because it's my primary thing. So I will do it again, but I don't know when yet. All right. Dan Nicholson, can we participate in Bryan's 2 upcoming webinars? Yeah, sure. That's fine, Dan. If you would like to do. In fact, why don't we do this? You see that it says text cap raise to 555-888. Yesterday, my wife was on, and she set up a different keyword. I think she had text note school to 555-888.
Note camp. Let's get
note
the
camp.
right.
I'm sorry, note camp. I apologize. Thank you, note camp.
No problem.
Don't want to make that mistake. I apologize. But yeah, why don't you text note camp to 555-888, and the ones that come in today, what I'll do is if that's okay with Scott. And
that's
Scott,
totally fine, Bryan. Totally fine.
Okay. All right, cool. And Scott, if you change your mind later, just let me know. I'll be happy to honor that.
All good with it, Bryan. Not a problem at all. What I can do is those that have been live here, I could even send you an email with those, and then you can send an email out to them and then go from there. How's that?
Sure.
sound?
Cool. I'd really appreciate that. But yeah, so Bob says, what if I don't have big dollar credibility partners to help bolster confidence of the investors? That's a legitimate question, Bob. And I can tell you this: if your deal is a good deal, and if you have the competence to run that deal, we can overcome credibility issues. Is it better if you have a lot of experience? Yes. Is it impossible if you don't? No, not at all. Okay. Let's see. Shrikant asks, is there support provided after the 2-day training session if I have any questions? Yes, there are options for that. I'm not going to lie to you. It's more like a college class where you don't really get to go back and harass the professor forever. But there are some things that I provide to make sure that you get supported afterwards if you have questions that we didn't deal with. So yes. But Scott, I could ramble on and on because this stuff is my passion. I love it, but I don't want to step on your calendar here.
You're okay. We got there was one more question I want to bring up there. Eric asks, what's the best? How do you like to locate these home run investment opportunities? Eric asks.
Oh, that's a good one, Eric. So the best thing you can learn to do, and that you can do if you want to learn how to identify home run investment opportunities, is learn how to raise capital. Man, I'm telling you, if you are able to fund deals quickly, great deals seek you out. And this is what I meant earlier when I was trying to express my sincere thanks to God, because it's like, I can't believe some of the stuff that I get to see, and like some of the stuff that I get to turn down. Not, I sincerely don't mean that arrogantly, like that, but that's the key to it, Eric, is learning how to raise capital makes you a powerful person, a center of influence. That is the key to it. Honestly, that is the key to it.
Bryan, you might want to bring up one thing. You've done you've done a lot, many things really good. But what would you say has been one of the most powerful tools or powerful marketing pieces that you've done to kind of help build credibility, get your name out there over the last few years? I know the answer to it, but I want to ask you there and see maybe something different than I'm thinking about.
Well, there could be lots of answers to that. Honestly, lately, the answer to that is that I do damn good work, like my $25,000 coaching days. Mm-hmm. Like, even on those things, I give a full money back guarantee. Nobody ever takes me up on that, because I end up getting referrals from my clients. Mm-hmm. Lately, it's that. Long term, it's my podcast. Mm-hmm.
Well, before
lately,
podcast,
it's also
you know, you send the newsletter out. I thought was one of the greatest tools that you did.
Oh yeah,
marketing pieces. I mean, it's so simple. You may not think like a podcast or a webinar. You know what I mean? Yeah,
you know, and I said the other things, but like the newsletter is just such a part of what we do. I don't even think of it as
right. Well, but that's the beautiful thing. You find 3, 4, 5 articles, things that pop up. You send an email out with a link to those articles and share a paragraph of what you think about the article. What's interesting about it, it's a very simple thing that everybody can do to start building that database, to start building some of that credibility in the market out there. Because we've got, we got seasoned people that are looking for marketing, but also brand new people. Just start doing something on a regular basis. And the consistency, delivering good work like you do as well.
Yeah, and that is one of the things that for those of you who choose to text CapRaise to 555-888 and come to the event, that is something that we focus on pretty heavily. That's what step one is lead generation. And part of that is lead nurturing. Like, once you have them, what do you do with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Scott Brown says on here, Bryan, simply amazing. Thanks for sharing. So
Scott Brown, how are you, man? Thanks for coming.
There you go. Good stuff. Well, hey guys, Bryan, once again, thank you for coming on Note Camp. Thanks for making a bit of pivot. Thanks for really sharing some great knowledge, great experience, and 2 great examples of what you're doing to not only help yourself, but help other investors really raise capital, make things happen in an expedited fashion. Guys, take Bryan Ellis up on a class. Well worth it. This guy knows his stuff and delivers results for you guys. So
thanks so much, Scott. I appreciate you having me here, and I hope you guys all were able to learn something today.
Oh yeah, definitely. We got to get together sooner. I think once everything frees up here, I think there's a bunch of us getting together just for the heck to hang out and have a cold beer.
Sounds good. Cool. Sounds good.
Great. Thanks, Bryan.
Thanks, man.
Yep. All right, guys. That's gonna wrap it up for this session. Our next session. A lot of people have questions in the note space or in the real estate space of what's going to happen. I'm a landlord. What am I going to have to do? What's evictions look like after all this figures out? Or what's the foreclosure process look like for a lot of us here? Because so many people have assets and deals and like, what am I going to do? What should I look for? So we're really excited for our next guest. Stephanie Perini-Hegarty is going to be coming on here. She is a real estate attorney. We'll be talking about evictions and foreclosures pre and post pandemic. So come on back, take a quick 6-minute break, go grab a cup of water, run to the restroom, jot down your notes from Bryan, and we'll see you back here in roughly about 6 minutes.